Hello and welcome to Muscle for Life. I'm your host, Mike Matthews. Thank you for joining me today to listen to an interview I did with Jay Shaw. And Jay read my book, Bigger, Leaner, Stronger, and he used what he learned in that book and a few other books of mine and my podcasts to turn his life around, really, physically and mentally, because not only has Jay now lost over 50 pounds while gaining a ton of strength, getting stronger every week. It's fun to be new, right? His mental health has also radically changed and radically improved. In fact, I think Jay is just a perfect example of how getting in shape and just taking control of your health and taking control of your body composition can dramatically improve your mood and improve your mindset and encourage you to take control of many other things in your life. Because before finding my work, Jay battled post-traumatic stress, anxiety, depression, even tried to take his own life. Fortunately, that didn't work. And he then started to take baby steps toward improving his physical health, which then spilled over to his mental health. And as Jay explains in this interview, he really doesn't know if he would be here if it wasn't for using what he learned in Bigger, Leaner, Stronger to start training his body and nourishing his body with nutritious food and getting active using his body. Then Jay decided to sign up for my VIP coaching program, and in this interview, Jay and I talk about his story, the obstacles that he has navigated along the way, before and after coaching. So on Bigger, Leaner, Stronger, and then working with one of my coaches. Jay talks about how he eased into fitness with walks and body weight movements, which I love. Great tips. That's exactly what I recommend in my newest book, Muscle for Life, for example, which is intended for, particularly for the 40 plus crowd and for people who are brand new to all of this stuff and who are not in good shape or maybe in very bad shape right now. Walking, body weight training, great place to start. Jay talks about overcoming gym intimidation, how he stopped using alcohol to cope with his problems, and more. But first, how would you like to know a little secret that will help you get into the best shape of your life? Here it is. The business model for my VIP coaching service sucks. Boom, mic drop. And what in the fiddly frack am I talking about? Well, while most coaching businesses try to keep their clients around for as long as possible, I take a different approach. You see, my team and I, we don't just help you build your best body ever. I mean, we do that. We figure out your calories and macros, and we create custom diet and training plans based on your goals and your circumstances, and we make adjustments depending on how your body responds, and we help you ingrain the right eating and exercise habits so you can develop a healthy and a sustainable relationship with food and training and more. But then there's the kicker, because once you are thrilled with your results, we ask you to fire us. Seriously, you've heard the phrase, give a man a fish and you feed him for a day, teach him to fish and you feed him for a lifetime. Well, that summarizes how my one-on-one coaching service works. And that's why it doesn't make nearly as much coin as it could. But I'm okay with that, because my mission is not to just help you gain muscle and lose fat. It's to give you the tools and to give you the know-how that you need to forge ahead in your fitness without me. So dig this. When you sign up for my coaching, we don't just take you by the hand and walk you through the entire process of building a body you can be proud of. We also teach you the all-important whys behind the hows, the key principles, and the key techniques you need to understand to become your own coach. And the best part, it only takes 90 days. So instead of going it alone this year, why not try something different? Head over to muscleforlife.show/VIP. That is muscleforlife.show/VIP, and schedule your free consultation call now. And let's see if my one-on-one coaching service is right for you. Hey, Jay, thanks for taking the time to come and chat with me.
Thank you for having me, Mike. It's a pleasure being here.
Yeah, yeah. Where do you live, by the way?
I'm in a town called Guildford, Surrey, which is about 30 miles south of London, about half an hour on the train. It's very green. It's a small place, quite an affluent area. It's like being in London, but not.
Nice. Yeah, I've never been to England. I've been all around Europe, but for whatever reason, I just I never made it over across the channel. My wife is from Germany, so again, I've been to Europe many times, and I feel like every time I would go, we'd end up going other places, and then we would say, "All right, let's go do England on the next trip." But then on the
Mhm.
next trip, we would end up
Yeah,
just so
yeah, it'd be quite easy to
one of
do.
these days. Maybe
Yeah, it'd be
I
quite
don't know
easy
how the
to do.
restrictions are right now. Maybe when I can have fun, at least my
I think over the last
requirements.
couple of years, England's been anything but fun, and in fact, even 2 years before the pandemic, with all the shenanigans with Brexit, it's just been
Mm,
everyone's been in quite an angry and miserable mood. I
mm.
think things are starting to improve now, but next time you do make your way over to Germany, it's worth having a couple of days stop over in London and just go and see the sights, just to tick it off and say you've done it.
Yeah, yeah. Go to the museums, and
Yeah,
it's. I mean, I enjoy doing in most places I've traveled to for the first couple of days. There's always touristy things that at least I like to do. That
yeah, yeah.
just because like walking around and seeing the sights. I mean, it literally is just looking at the rocks and eating the food, but it's fun for a few days. You know what I mean?
Absolutely, absolutely. Just to say you've done it. And the good thing about London is you can get around on foot. I know it's a big city, but it's better done on foot. And there's a lot to see and take in. Lots of places can go off the beaten track as well. You
Yeah.
don't have to look far to find somewhere that's not too touristy and get great places to eat. So yeah, I think you'd enjoy it.
Cool, cool. Well, it's on the list. It'll happen maybe I don't know about this year, maybe next year. Again, I've just been so busy. I haven't even been paying attention to where Europe and where the UK is at with COVID restrictions and so forth. I've just seen some headlines that things are generally loosening, but I don't know what
They
that really
have,
means
yeah.
on the ground. You know what I mean?
We've got open door policy now, and I think it was about a few weeks ago. They've
Okay,
just relaxed all travel restrictions from people going in and out of the country.
cool. Well, let's shift gears and let's talk about your fitness. And
Oh,
where I like to start these discussions is why don't you just give us a quick overview of kind of like a before and after snapshot, where you're at now
yeah.
versus where you were at maybe before finding me and my work. And feel free to share whatever dimensions of where you're at mean the most to you. Maybe it's body
Okay.
comp stuff, or maybe
Yeah.
it's a combination of body comp plus other lifestyle health benefits, whatever.
Okay. So this is the second time I've come back to you and your work. We'll probably talk about the first time just because I think it'll paint a better story in terms of why I'm here now. But I think it's about 3 or 4 years ago. I'd suffered a number of calamities, which have resulted in various mental disorders, post-traumatic stress disorder, anxiety, depression, felt quite suicidal, didn't take good care of myself, slipped into some really bad habits, drank too much, ate complete and utter garbage, didn't move around. Was on the back of a couple of really nasty car accidents. Um, so that took me some time to mentally recover. And the physical recovery wasn't as bad. It didn't take that long. It was the mental scars. But what had happened was over the course of a couple of years, I just completely let myself go and fell into some terrible habits. And as a result, I think I gained a good 3 stone, which originally I was quite a slender person at 6'2" and quite fit and active. I saw a photo of myself at a Christmas dinner in 2018. And this is the one that really prompted me to sort of do something about it. I'm staring at the camera. I've been caught off guard, and both my cheeks are full. I look like an obese gerbil that's been caught red-handed. Um, I decided to start the new year off as most people do with some health goals. Did a bit of reading and research about you. Started to read your blogs and your website. Started listening to some of your podcasts. Ordered a bunch of stuff from your website. I think I got some Triumph, Pulse, Forge, Phoenix, anything I can get my hands on. without incurring too much of a hit on duty. And then started following your program from BLS loosely. But what I found was I didn't have, without someone sort of beating me, I wasn't really sort of following it to the T. And I don't think my nutrition was that great. So I hired a personal trainer who he was pretty good, but as most personal trainers are, they're kind of in it for themselves. And got myself into reasonable shape in 2019. Down to about probably 14% body fat, considering I was obese only 3 or 4 months before, quite a turnaround. And things were going great. I had a plan in mind in terms of the sort of body I wanted to get to. 2019, met a girl, got a job which involved a lot of travel, lots of hotels, fancy pants restaurants. And before you know it, I'm back into crummy habits and eating out all the time, drinking too much, entertaining. And then the pandemic, which meant I was sat on my arse for a good year and a half, indoors, felt very depressed, really bad habits, ordering food straight to my door, pretty much put into my mouth, too much drink. And gradually, but slowly but surely, the weight started to pile on. And it came to a head last summer where I had a really bad bout of depression brought on by some extreme pressures at work. I think with the pandemic and people working from home, the boundaries between work and life, there were no more. There was no commute to bookend the start and the end of the working day. And the company I was working for at the time was a multinational. So even during this normal world and with people going into the office, there would have been a lot of demand on my time. But when you were at home, it was kind of expected to be constantly on call 24 hours a day. Very high pressure. It's all about sales numbers. I didn't really cope very well with that, given the fact that I was not coping at all by being indoors and being isolated from friends and family. And it got to the point where I think at one point I, in the middle of the night, got up, put my clothes on and took a walk to the river with the full intention of not coming back. Obviously, I'm still here. I didn't take that final swim, but it was enough to scare me. The fact that I'd got myself into this position. So I made some big changes. I quit my job, took some time out, went back up to see my parents. They lived in the countryside, get away from it all. Dusted off my copy of BLS whilst I was there. And again, extremely overweight. I was obese. I was 104, 105 kilos, out of breath, just getting out of bed. Brushing my teeth was an effort. So I listened to the small things that, despite how out of control the world around you might be, there are some things that you can take control of. And two things you can start with that can have a profound effect on the way you feel is what you put into your body and how much you move. And just with those two small changes, I cut out all the crap. I started to eat nutritious food, fruit, vegetables, whole grains, whole food, and started to move. And I started off slowly, just by going out for long walks. Slowly built myself up to do the couch to 5K. And there was one constant throughout it, which is what prompted me to reach out to you. Is I listened to one of your podcasts every time I went out for a walk. And every time I went home, I reread a chapter of BLS. I think that thing is so well thumbed now. It's probably, it's no good to anybody now. But I got to the point where by the end of the year, I think after about 6 weeks of just watching what I ate, making sure I got some steps in every day, some of it low intensity through walking and some of it high intensity, some interval training, I managed to drop about 30 pounds or so. Then joined the gym in December, started following the BLS 5-day split. Slowly to begin with, because I was a bit nervous in terms of how my body would respond. And thankfully, it responded really well. I mean, there is such a thing as muscle memory. Thank the gods of gains for that, because it really,
it's nice to actually experience, right?
Absolutely. It just soaked it all up and it just wanted more. And I wanted more as well, because I could see the changes every day.
And what's cool, just to interject quickly, is
Sure.
Research suggests that those adaptations are likely permanent, meaning that you do the work once. Now, in an ideal world, we would more or less maintain what we want to maintain indefinitely, right?
Uh-huh.
But life can get in the way, the world can get in the way. And so what research suggests is you do the work once and you always have that capacity for the accelerated regaining of muscle, even if the time off, I mean, it could be years off and then you come back to it. It's not entirely clear, but I would say that that's where the research seems to be pointing. And so it's just another nice kind of fringe benefit to doing this, just knowing that there is a permanent payoff. If things get in the way and you have to get back to it, it will always be, it appears that it will always be easier and more rewarding the second, third, fourth, whatever time than it was the first time.
It's like seeing an old friend again. Nothing's changed, and you just pick up where you left off. And it's very comforting as well, knowing that you will see progress relatively quickly as long as you sort of stick to the plan and take care of what you eat. Yep. So I followed your basics principles: nutritious food, stick to whole foods, try and do a bit of cardio every week. And I found I never thought I'd ever call myself a runner, but I've really embraced it. I mean, I hate it, to be fair. But what I have found is that it's great for clearing the mind, getting away from my desk, my laptop for half an hour, smashing out a quick 5K, come back and everything's very different. And I feel like I've done something worthwhile as well. So sticking to the principle of doing a bit of high intensity cardio, maybe a bit of light cardio if I fancy it, but progressive overload, just constantly going in and trying to beat the person I was last week. It's me versus me every time I go into the gym. And I've noticed that I've got stronger week on week. I feel fitter. I feel healthier. My mind is clearer. I'm sleeping like an absolute baby. I haven't slept this well in years. I can't remember the last time I put my head down and woke up 8.5 hours later, maybe with one bathroom break, but 8.5 hours later, feeling refreshed and ready to face the day. So
I'm jealous. After having my second kid, I'm just a lighter sleeper now than I was when I was younger. You know, I'm guaranteed to wake up at least once or twice.
Have you adapted to that? I mean, do you like?
Yeah, I just have to spend more time in bed now to get enough, the glory days where when I was 26, 27, there was actually like a 5-year stretch where I would go to bed probably 11:30 and I would be working at least most weeknights, up really until I'm getting ready for bed. Right. So that's a computer screen. That's mentally, usually I'm writing or doing something that requires thinking. It's not just rotely processing information or something like clicking buttons, you know what I mean? And go to bed, fall asleep, 5 minutes, blackout unconscious for 6.5, maybe 7 hours, wake up before my alarm, and that's it. And rarely have any other experience. Now I'm going to wake up and I'm probably gonna have to pee at least once or twice. And then if it seems to be what I've isolated is, it seems to be related to stress, but it wasn't obvious to me because I don't feel stressed out. But what I notice is if my aggravation levels generally are just too high, it messes with my sleep. And so that is in connection with, it's always in connection, almost always with work stuff. And so that's just made it clear to me that there are things that I need to, for as well as the businesses are doing, there are some things I need to change about how the businesses are working and my role in some of them. I'm in the weeds a bit too much with certain things. And so we have to make some key hires. And I suspect on the other end of that, then again, aggravation levels will be lower and sleep gets better. And when I was younger, there weren't as many moving parts. Everything was smaller and everything was new. And, I think I have a pretty high pain tolerance in general, but you can only take so much. But anyway, I don't want to hijack the conversation.
No, that's cool. That's completely fine. I mean, I think on one of your podcasts, I think you mentioned that you try and sneak in the odd power nap wherever you can, if you can.
Yeah. I just, these days it has gotten even harder to do that because I'm in a rental property. I'm building a house, but it's going to be a year and a half from now until we're in it. And this rental house is, I don't know the square footage. It's not very big, but it's made out of like cardboard and tile. So
Sure.
and I'm exaggerating, but the acoustics for echoing are really good in this house, right? And I have 2 kids. So really the only way to make that work is if I have a window where no one is going to be here for 30 to 45 minutes. But then that also has to jive with my schedule and what do I have to do for the day, so I would say I don't get the nap in more often than I do, but for people listening, napping is a great strategy for improving your health and your well-being when you are not sleeping maybe as well as you would like to, or getting as much sleep as you'd like to. Ideally, we would have, Jay, your experience. We would all sleep like that, but in the cases where that is not possible or it just doesn't happen, a nap, even if it's just 30 or 45 minutes, it can make a big difference. If you can just fall into light sleep for what might actually only be 15 to 25 minutes of actual light sleep, that can take you from feeling lethargic to fresh enough to carry on the rest of the day.
I don't think I've had the need to take a power nap in recent weeks.
Yeah, which is great. I mean, that's where you want to be.
That could easily change though. One bad day at the office, and who knows, or if I miss a workout. But I have started to cut back. I've drastically cut back on the amount of caffeine I drink as well. I probably have about 2 coffees a day. I start the day off with a long black coffee, and I might have one early afternoon, and then that's it. I was drinking vitamin. I was probably using it as a crutch as well when I was really strung out, which conversely is making me even more strung out. But anyway, we are where we are. So where was I? So I think that brought me up into.
So you're back in the gym, and now you're making progress again, and
that's right.
Your cardio in, and you're sleeping better.
I'm seeing some great results in the gym. The weight keeps dropping off, and I think it's in January where I felt compelled to reach out to you because I felt like, I owed you some thanks for sort of being there for support, in that when you didn't know each other at all, but listen to your voice and listen to the people you're speaking to, some weird and wonderful people with some varied backgrounds and wonderful stories to tell and some great wisdom as well, really, really helped. So yeah, I got in touch with you. You responded, which was fantastic. And at this point, I'm really into I'm part of, I'm in the ecosystem. I've got BLS. I just downloaded the Muscle for Life as soon as it came out. Bought a copy of the Shredded Chef. I'm buying Legion products, supplements whenever I can. Shipping and that, it's all a bit crazy at the moment with shipping.
Yeah. Well, we're working on that, by the way. What we should be able to get up this year, assuming I suppose that supply chains don't get significantly worse. Like if they just stay, everything's messed up. If it stays about this messed up for the rest of the year, it does look like we can get Amazon UK set up and then use that as a hub. Yeah, also for fulfilling website orders. That does look positive currently.
That's fantastic. I've just ordered a bunch of stuff and it might turn up next week or it might turn up next month.
I know.
But at least I've got the order in there. And I'll be like a kid on Christmas Eve as soon as it rocks up. But yeah, so I thought, right, I might as well go all in, really see how far I can take this and nuke it from orbit. It's the only way to be sure. So let's go with elite coaching. I've heard you heard you talk about it and at the beginning of some of your podcasts. I've seen it mentioned on your site. I thought, why not? In the past, I wouldn't have thought twice about spending, I don't know, X amount of money on a new laptop, which wouldn't, in a few months would be out of date. What's the difference in investing a little bit of money on my health and well-being that's going to set me up? And I'll take lessons away from this coaching that's going to set me up for life. That knowledge is not going to disappear the day I kiss goodbye to Ryan, my coach. I'll carry that forward. So yeah, that's where I am at the moment. I'm now at the point. I had a weigh in last Saturday. I think I'd done some fasted cardio. Hadn't had a great deal to eat on the Friday just because I wasn't that active, so I didn't feel that hungry. And I was at 79 kilos, so that's officially 51 pounds lost, which felt like a great round number. And I'm now starting to see, I'm seeing definition on my shoulders, my arms, slight hint of abdominals, not quite there yet. But my withings say I'm 18%. The calipers I bought on Ryan's advice put me at 14. So say I'm somewhere in the middle. I think, next 3 months, I'm going to follow the meal plan to a T. I mean, today I'm very anal about weighing my food. If I'm given instructions, I will follow them. I'm 1,913 calories is my allowance for the day. I'm bang on the calorie, bang on the macros. So I'm really enjoying this. I like science and like process, and this is what it brings to my life. Something that I felt had been lacking over the last couple of years. So this kind of gives me an element of control.
And
so
it's a great exercise for being able to eat well, let's say intuitively, off of a plan, or maybe not off of a plan, but where, okay, you're not going to weigh things anymore. So that can work well for maintenance, for example. And you'll probably move to that at some point where naturally you're going to be familiar enough with the foods that you like to eat, where you just know what portions should look like. And you also know that, all right, if you accidentally overeat for a couple of days, it's not a big deal. Then you could just eat a bit less for a couple of days, or not. Just
Exactly.
You've experienced firsthand what it takes to really gain a lot of weight. You really have to eat a lot of food for a long time and do very little movement. So firsthand that you don't have to worry about, oh, you ate a couple hundred calories more than you wanted to one day.
No big deal. In the grand scheme of things, it's nothing. It really isn't. And as you say, you can just make up for it by. And I don't want to get into the whole sort of T-book accounting and debit credit of calories, where you think, okay, I'm going to earn those calories, and by binging today, I'm going to binge today and then earn it by starting.
Or like purge. Yeah, right.
Yeah, exactly. That's bad. Cool. But like you say, I'm not going to self-immolate in the front garden in front of all the neighbours just because I had an extra ounce of chicken breast or some extra beans or whatever, or I doubled up on the protein bars because I felt I needed to. There are days when I feel quite hungry, but that's probably they normally coincide on the days where I've lifted quite heavy.
Yep.
And I've tried to hit a PB on a 5K.
Yep.
And I've just been busy as well. So, my active calories throughout the day are a lot higher.
Yep.
And I'm not going to starve myself just for the sake of an extra couple of 100 calories. If I feel like I could eat I need a bit more chicken on my plate, I will do it. It's not going to do me any harm. It'll do me good. But what I like about the meal planners that you got at Legion are, they listen to you. They don't just hit you with something. And I've seen meal plans that you can download off the internet. I've used a couple as well from friends who've given me, so-called trainers. And you can tell they're copy and paste jobs. And they are because they've got stuff in there that you told me you can't eat. Okay, that's great. Thanks for putting in the time and effort. But your guys, it's almost like an interview process. They get to know you, and they want to know what makes you tick. What do you like? What do you wake up and look forward to in the morning? And what do you kind of crave in the afternoon? What do you like to sit down after a long day or a heavy session in the gym? Where do you like to buy from? I mean, they take it to the next level. Where's the supermarket near you? They try to make it easy so you don't have to go out your way to get something. And then they just sort of give you a first draft. It's not a fait accompli when it ends up in your inbox. It's, what do you think? Does this work? Give us some feedback. And they seem to thrive on it. And there's a couple of iterations of it. But, what they send to you is about 95% there. And I was like, wow, you read my mind. This is like what my ideal day would be. This is how I like to start my day. This is the kind of stuff I crave at lunchtime. And this is what I want for a snack. And it's my ideal dinner. And I guess it kind of made it easy for them as well. When I spoke to, was it Cody, who on the sort of discovery call?
Yep.
he sort of laughed and said, for me, I like chicken breasts. I could eat it all the time. I love broccoli. I love brown rice. I love tilapia. I love green beans and asparagus. And it's like, well, the meal planners are going to have a field day. You know, they're going to love you because you're not one of those fussy eater chaps. If anything, they're going to struggle to think of something that's going to be creative because I am quite vanilla. I'll quite happily eat. I mean, that's all I've eaten this for the last 3 months. It's chicken breast, broccoli, brown rice, asparagus. I love asparagus. Can't get enough of that stuff. The odd protein bar, a good isolate, oats, yogurt, eggs. So all the stuff that a good diet should have.
And I'm very much the same way. I mean, I can eat the same stuff. I've been doing it. I've been eating the same stuff essentially every day for it's been years now. I make little changes here and there. Eventually I get tired of the vegetable slop dinner the way I was making it. And so I changed the sauces and now I'm probably on to the next vegetable slop for 2 years and I like it every day. So I think it's worth saying that, there are things that are worth maximizing and there are things that are worth satisficing, right? And there's a big difference there where when you're maximizing, you're trying to find the best possible. And that mindset is useful if we're talking about maybe who you should marry. Now, I think absolutes are unattainable, but that mindset makes sense. It's probably not smart to have a satisficers, like good enough, whatever kind of mindset. If we're talking about who do I marry, who do I go into business with, what should my career be, right?
Yeah. Where do I live?
Right. Yeah. But with something like food, I'm very much a satisficer where so long as I reach good enough, and good enough means, and like you, and everyone listening probably, or most people listening, we do have actually a fairly high standard. Good enough means we have to enjoy every meal every day. And maybe there's the occasional time where we don't enjoy that food as much as another time, just like there are the occasional workouts that aren't that great. We always feel great afterward, but going through them sometimes feels like a bit of a bear, and that's fine. But generally speaking, the standard is we should eat the foods that we like every meal, every day. We should be looking forward to our meals and we should feel satisfied after every meal. And so long as I hit that, I don't care to try to find out how much more satisfaction could I get. Some people are more into it. I'm just not. Like, that's enough for me. And once I'm consistently below that standard, once the vegetable slop, I really am not looking forward to it anymore and I'm just forcing myself to eat it. Okay, now it's time to change something about it to bring it back up. But I don't care to try to explore the boundaries of how much satisfaction can I possibly get from food while hitting my calories and macros. It just doesn't. If I had a personal chef, then I would be more interested in it. I would make it his project. I just don't I don't have the time to want to give to that. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Just give him a list of the sort of macro calories that you need to hit.
And here are all the foods. I mean, I like to eat pretty much anything. So wow me. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
sure.
But this leads me on to why I think you're doing yourself a bit of a disservice, because The Shredded Chef is an amazing cookbook. It really is. My girlfriend, she's a fussy eater, and she's made a bunch of stuff from there already. It's full of flavor, takes I'm never going to get bored of chicken. It's a very versatile meat. Yeah. For what you get, the bang for buck in terms of calories versus protein, it's perfect. It's almost perfect.
And you can prepare it in so many different ways.
Exactly, right. And I can't wait for the summer to kick in, because I'll be outdoors grilling most of the time. I'll be eating outdoors. But The Shredded Chef shows that you can just take some pretty humble ingredients and turn them into very nutritious meals that are packed full of flavor for very little effort as well. That was the other thing that really surprised me. There's so many cookbooks in there. The sort of methodology, you need to give up half a day and probably shop in some very exotic supermarkets to get what you
and
need.
Have a bunch of stuff left over that, unless you're going to make that meal multiple times, you're like, all right, what do I do now with half of these leftover ingredients?
Exactly. I mean, I think Shredded Chef, great cookbook. I haven't used a cookbook as often as I have used yours. I mean, I've got so many. I love cooking, but I'd probably, in the past, you pick out a couple of recipes out of this book you probably paid 30 quid for, and then it's on the shelf along with the rest. But yours is constantly being picked up. My girlfriend uses it to prep her lunch. So we're big fans of the mussel meatballs. We really love those.
I like the meatloaf a lot too.
That
was a fun project to work on. See, but I worked with a professional chef. I had parameters and had to explain, here are the types of recipes that we need. And it's exactly what you're saying. Like we need to have a lot of protein, in a lot of them. We need the carbs and a lot of the ideal recipes are going to include some protein. They are going to be maybe moderate in carbs and lower in fat. Now, we don't have to go low fat. We don't want to sacrifice all flavor, but that is going to be ideal, I know, for most of the people like us who are wanting to eat a relatively higher carb diet for our training. And of course, we need to eat enough protein. We need to make it tasty. And this point of ingredients, I wanted to make sure that that none of the recipes require too many ingredients or cooking ability, because there are a lot of cookbooks that are for people who are good at cooking. And if you are not good at cooking, you're going to struggle. You're going to spend a lot of time, maybe spend a fair amount of money, and then end up with something that isn't even that good. That's annoying.
Exactly. That's the other thing that's very good about the literature. It's accessible. As you say, you don't need a lot of cooking experience. And I love the fact the first couple of chapters is the basics of cooking, how to sharpen a knife and stuff like that. So any dunce could pick it up. I never have cooked a single dish, boiled an egg before, but having read the first couple of chapters, you're kind of primed and you're able to work your way through it. So yeah, fantastic bunch of recipes, very accessible. It's my go-to. It really is. And
I need to do a follow-up. I want to. There's so many things that I want to do. If I didn't have to sleep, my life would be more exciting. Hey there, if you are hearing this, you are still listening, which is awesome. Thank you. And if you are enjoying this podcast, or if you just like my podcast in general and you are getting at least something out of it, would you mind sharing it with a friend or a loved one or a not so loved one even, who might want to learn something new? Word of mouth helps really bigly in growing the show, so if you think of someone who might like this episode or another one, please do tell them about it.
Well, you always seem to have various drafts of various books on the go.
I know. So I have new 4th editions coming. All of my work is done on these projects for Bigger, Leaner, Stronger and Thinner, Leaner, Stronger, which basically were rewrites, overhauls. The fundamentals are not changing, of course, but the organization has changed. I think it's more user friendly, especially for people who want to get into action as soon as possible, want to start doing this stuff as quickly as they can. Yeah. And so that's coming. Let's say BLS will be out, at least the digitals, in the next month or two, and then hard copies, the order will be placed in the next month or two, but lead times are absurd right now. It's like 3 or 4 month lead times. So it'll take that long to get the new books out. And then the women's book, Thinner, Leaner, Stronger, digitals will be probably out in the next 2 to 3 months. And that's when I'll be able to place hard copies. And then I'm also working on a book that it's going to be a devotional, is the idea. So take Daily Stoic is a good example of, right? So these books where you read one essay per day is kind of the idea, right? For a year. But do it for fitness and do it, I would say, my way. And so like half of the essays are going to be educational, half of the essays are going to be inspirational. And I'm having fun with it. I mean, the format is very popular, and nobody has done it successfully that I know of in the fitness space. It's been done successfully in many other genres, but not in fitness. And I think I can do a good job with it. And so that's what I'm working on right now. Maybe after that, it'll be a cookbook.
What stage is this book now?
I have about half of the essays first drafts done for about half of the essays. And I think that I can get the other half done, first drafts, by summer. By sometime in summer, I think I can have first drafts done. Then I'll probably need a month or two to go through the editorial process, probably just myself. I'm not sure I'll be able to get like a final edited manuscript done in that time, but I think I'll a month or two of just me working with it, and then I'll be happy enough with it to give it to the editor I work with, and then she'll probably need a month or two to go through it. And so all in, I will be happy if I can release it in the first quarter of next year. If that's like the official release, I'll be happy with that. I think that's doable. It gives me some flexibility because there are a lot of things that I kind of have to do that are, this is like one of those important projects, but it's not as urgent as some of the Legion stuff I'm involved in and other stuff, And
it would genuinely help a lot of people. I'm a great believer in the power of positive messaging and reading something every day.
Agreed.
To really instill.
I mean, you mentioned it in this interview that you had said that you had started with, you were going for a walk, you were listening to podcasts, and you were doing a little bit of reading every day.
Yeah, absolutely. And it just brought it was something for myself. It was something that was really good for my soul, whilst I was doing something that was good for me physically as well. And the great thing about listening to your podcast, especially the chunkier ones, which go on for like an hour, sometimes an hour and a half, and particularly when they're with people you know, and there's a lot of sort of back and forth. I think Mark Rippon is one of my favourite. I'd love to meet him over a beer one day. But that would be a really interesting point. But it really passes the time. If right now I've popped up 6.5K and I'm out in the country just getting fresh air, and I feel so de-stressed.
Yep.
So I think that book could be fantastic. There are a few friends of mine who could really do something like that. I've already whispered in their ear about getting hold of a copy of Muscle for Life. I don't know what feedback you've had on that today, but I'm reading it now. And then next up, Ryan's told me to pick up a copy of Beyond Bigger, Leaner, Stronger.
Yeah, that'd be good.
Start reading up on that. But Muscle for Life is written in such a fantastic way. It's a great book. You can tell you put a lot of time, heart and soul into that. It'd be interesting to know what kind of feedback you've had to date.
Yeah. Thank you. So far, the feedback has been great overall. I mean, there are always detractors, and sometimes people bring up valid points. I've always been not only open to constructive criticism, but actively interested in it. I mean, I used to, you can't reply. I think, Amazon got rid of the commenting feature on reviews some time ago, but I used to not only read. I think it just turned into too much of a shit show, and they determined that this isn't adding anything to their objectives, and you have
it's not constructive.
In many cases it turned into like Twitter spats almost, where people were just arguing about things, right? And but I used to not only read every review but also reply to every review, and I still regularly review negative reviews. 1 stars are usually not very helpful. Sometimes they're even just kind of random, like
it's very black and white. Someone's very set-minded. They haven't really opened their mind to critical thinking or new ideas. One review just means that this person got into there already hating it,
or they just one thing that triggers them, and that's why they gave. And it might be something kind of exactly. It could be something kind of silly, like, oh, the fact that I even talk about calories in and calories out, and they don't believe in that, and that's the 1-star review. Okay, fine, whatever. However, there are often little nuggets in 2-star reviews, 3-star reviews, and from the beginning, I've been very interested in that, because that has given me those reviews have given me a lot of good ideas for how to improve the books. And so as I go through these iterations, I would say maybe not half, but somewhere between 25 and 50% of the changes that I make, just the notes that I end up making, which once those notes get long enough, then it's time to start the process of the next edition. I would say at least a quarter of them come from people's feedback, and it's via reviews and via emails mostly. And so, in the case of Muscle for Life, there are some people who are like, oh, this is just read Bigger, Leaner, Stronger instead. Okay, I understand that, but they didn't quite understand who I was writing this book for. And
it's a different audience.
It's a different audience, and the programs are totally different. If you look at the programs, like in Muscle for Life, the advanced program is kind of like Bigger, Leaner, Stronger light. It's not as difficult, it's not as challenging as Bigger, Leaner. And that's the advanced program, right? So if you have somebody who, let's say, regardless of age, I mean, you can relate to this, right? So think back to when you were very overweight and you were not doing well. To jump right into BLS is a bit much. If I were training you personally, I wouldn't start you there. I wouldn't say, oh yeah, we're just going to go do some heavy squats and deadlifts. I would start you with more or less what you did. I would say, let's get on some walks and let's clean up the diet a little bit. And then if we're incorporating resistance training, let's say it was the first time that you've ever done that, you could get in the gym and follow Bigger, Leaner, Stronger. You're going to have to modify it a little bit here and there. You could do that, but it is, I think, it's a bit of a steep learning curve, so to speak, and steep difficulty curve.
Yeah.
Why not make it a little bit easier and more enjoyable by starting with, if we're talking about resistance training, why don't we start with some body weight stuff and maybe add some bands, and then maybe within a month or two you've already mastered that. Okay, great. Now let's move over to some dumbbells. Maybe it's time to get in the gym, but let's now incorporate some dumbbell exercises and some machines.
Yep.
Okay, great. You've done a couple of months of that. Now we're ready to squat and deadlift and bench press. And you know what I mean? So there have been some comments along those lines, and I understand those comments, but the people, I'm excited to see the feedback from people who the book is intended for. And so I'm getting a lot of great feedback, especially on the programs where people were either intimidated by Bigger, Leaner, Stronger or Thinner, Leaner, Stronger, or were not able to do it for one reason or another. Sometimes, physical limitations, like past injuries, for example, sometimes physical limitations because of a combination of age and body composition. So take somebody who's 55 years old and they have 80 pounds to lose to get to let's say a healthy body comp, and they have a lot of joint pain. Okay, you really are not going to tell them to just deadlift day one.
Squats today.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, you could teach them how to do it safely if you were there working with them, but I still would question that programming. Like we don't need to start there. Let's work our way toward that, right?
Yeah.
And so yeah, I'm excited to. I'm actually putting together a quiz to help that people can take to help them find the book and the program that's for them. Because now people will ask me, hey, should I do your Bigger, Leaner, Stronger? Should I do your Thinner, Leaner, Stronger? Sometimes guys are even like, I don't want to get too big. Should I be doing thinner, leaner? I don't want to be thin either.
The science is the same, right?
Right. But I understand though, because they're just looking at it from the outside and they don't know. You know what I mean? They're just, should I be doing beyond Bigger, Leaner, Stronger? Now you have this Muscle for Life. And so I have a quiz that, it should be up in the next week or two that, similar to like the supplement quiz on the website where it asks you different questions. And then there's, some different logic built in terms of, okay, based on your answers, here's what I recommend. I recommend Bigger, Leaner, Stronger. Here's why. Or I recommend Muscle for Life. Here's why. And I think that'll be helpful because then I can make that just like a standard promotional blurb that can kind of get worked into all the communication channels so people can clearly know like which is for them and why.
Yeah, I think that's a great idea. I think you made a really good point, just hopping back a couple of steps just on where to begin and body weight exercises. So before I spent the first couple of months last year sort of moving, doing a bit of couch to 5K, but no resistance training. So before I got into the gym, before I was sort of committed to a gym membership, I just started off some bodyweight stuff. And it's actually, a push-up executed with the right form is actually bloody difficult. Same with bodyweight squats. With the right form, they're actually quite hard. And that's what I did, was just do some bodyweight stuff indoors, just by myself, just to wake everything up a bit, and just to have give myself the confidence as well of going back into a gym, because it can be quite intimidating after a long layoff.
Yeah, I wanted to ask you about that. How was that process? Because you probably experienced it twice, it sounds like, so the first time around, and then the second time around as well.
So the first time around, I ignored everyone around me. It was really that simple. I didn't care what people were thinking or what they were saying, because the reality is no one's looking at you. No one gives a shit. They're too busy sweating their nuts off on a bench press to even give
and looking at themselves.
Yeah, exactly right. So I didn't pay any attention to anyone.
If anybody wants to test that out, it's hard to get people's attention if you try. Like if you wanted them to notice you,
like you need a spot. Yeah,
exactly. It's hard.
No one's looking at you. So that's how I tackled it the first time around. And I did have a friend that would accompany me to the gym, and then I had this chap who sort of did some personal training with me. So that helped a lot. The second time around, I was nervous about form rather than appearing like I didn't know what I was doing, because I knew the fundamentals of pushing weights around, and I'd had good form drummed into me. One of my friends was a professional bodybuilder, competed and won a few titles, and when it came to form, he was a complete Nazi. So I had some of that stuff drummed into me, but I was still worried about looking like a bit clumsy, a bit gangly, a bit rusty. So again, I used the same mentality. I think the first few times I went in when I knew it was going to be fairly quiet, so I could avoid the crowd. But then I just put on a Muscle for Life podcast. That was takes your mind off stuff when you got something that you focused on. But I just remembered why I was there, and that's the mantra I still use that. Remember why you're doing this. Remember why you're doing this. Remember why you're doing this. And very, very conscious of form. One of the things I'm really looking forward to this weekend is filming myself. It's not something I've done yet. I always felt a bit weird about it, but I have to do it now for the coach. So what he says goes. So
people ask me about that, because I video myself for social media, and then it's also nice for me to check my form. And I'll still notice things sometimes if it's a fourth set and it's the final rep or two. It can be hard to maintain proper form on a heavy squat, for example. And people will ask me though if I feel embarrassed or self-conscious about videoing. And at first, when I started doing it, it felt a little bit awkward because I hadn't done it before. But I think there's value actually in doing things and being willing to put yourself in that, to use a trendy term, a vulnerable position where you do feel a little bit awkward and where people might look at you a little bit funny. If nothing else, I think it's good for staying humble.
Absolutely. And I've noticed quite a few people doing it now. I clock a lot of people doing that. It's not as weird as it was. And I think, as you say, you can use it it's a tool, right? To improve yourself. Progressive overload, progression comes in many different forms. And I think just analysing yourself when it's physical form, I think there's a lot to be said for that. So it's great. I've got Ryan now on my back. Send me those videos. And I will. So to answer your original question, I just remembered why I was there, remembered my form, and just focused on some positive messaging whilst I was doing my workout in the shape of your podcast. And remember, just tell myself as well, everyone else probably feels as dumb as I do. I'm sure they've got their own insecurities. Yeah, but I know for a fact I go in and I suck my stomach in, even though I don't need to anymore. But I'm sure everyone else does. All men do, and all women are conscious of their backsides. My girlfriend is. So it's just, everyone's in there because they're insecure about something, whether it's their physical health or the way they look, or it could be stress. They're really stressed out with life and they use the gym as a way of relieving some of the anxiety and stress of the day. So everyone's there for the same reason, is to be better in some way. And I think that's a great leveler. It really is.
And I find that most people that think of the gym I go to now and gyms I've gone to in the past, the people who I have ended up engaging with are almost always friendlier than maybe they look, or than you,
Sure, yeah.
than the impression that you get.
Yeah.
And so I remind myself of that too. I mean, again, I'm not one to take things personally. If somebody is not interested in talking to me, or is even rude, it doesn't bother me personally, but I know it's helpful especially for people who are kind of new and feel a little bit out of place.
Yeah.
And I've heard this particularly from women when they're going over to the weightlifting section and it's a bunch of sweaty, tattooed dudes grunting and groaning, and they don't look very friendly when they're bench pressing and even when they're in between sets. But in my experience, most people, even some of the gnarlier looking dudes, are actually quite friendly.
Yeah, I mean, everyone's a human at the end of the day. I'm sure, just like in any place, there's the odd idiot or asshole, but that's, you get that if you went into the local pub. Or in an office. God knows I've seen my fair share of office assholes in my life. But no, so I sort of just kept reminding those two things, and before I knew it, within my first week, it's just second nature. I get angsty if I wasn't walking over to the gym or making time for a workout. I do encourage anyone out there that's probably nervous about setting foot in a gym for the first time. Just remember, you only got to do it once, get it out of the way. But after that, it really is, it's enjoyable. You never regret going to the gym, ever. I've never come home and thought, I wish I hadn't gone today. It's the opposite. And now I feel I'm upset if I don't have time in my diary during the day, because I like sneaking out to do a quick half an hour or 40 minutes. I get upset. But you just got to take that leap of faith once, and you won't regret. You'll thank yourself. Your future you will thank you. Thank you for making that decision. Only good things will come of it. I'm living proof of this. Right? If it wasn't for the gym and for moving and nutritious food, there's no guarantee I'd be here now. Because I could have suffered another relapse, my mental state.
I wanted to ask you about that. Could you talk a bit about that in particular? So you were in a pretty dark place before you got back on the wagon, so to speak. And how has your mental health been as you have improved your physical health?
Like night and day. I think, my girlfriend is that everyone that's close to me and cares about me been shocked by not just the physical transformation, but just my general well-being, the way I come across, the way I talk, I act, I'm smiling. I'm laughing at things, I'm finding humor in everything around me. I never, like I used to back in the day. I've got a very stupid sense of humor, quite a dark one as well. And I've found that, I've rediscovered it. But I feel like I've got to regain control of my life in the way I think. I know if I have a dark moment, or if I feel aggravated or anxious, I know it's fleeting. It really is. It's fleeting. It's like bad weather. It all will pass. You just got to let it pass. It never rains forever. And I just, I remember that. I don't dwell on that moment. I remember what was really cool before I felt like that, and what's going to be really cool when this cloud passes.
It's interesting that if you would have, I'm sure you probably did try to do that previously, right? That, like, my point is, what it sounds like is it's not like you discovered some unique coping strategy, so to speak. It's that you have changed in some fundamental ways that you respond differently to the rough patches now than you did previously. Am I right?
Yeah, absolutely. I think
like it probably wouldn't have been helpful previously if somebody said, "Hey, why don't you just remember?" So let's say you're really not feeling good. Like, why don't you just remember? Yeah, exactly. It's basically like saying, "Why don't you just cheer up, dude? It'll be okay."
Yeah, it'll be fine. No, I think no, you're right, and that's a very valid point. There have been a few factors as well that have probably contributed to this additional strength I have. I don't really want to simplify it too much, but it is down to nutrition. You are what you eat. And I noticed that within a week of stopping eating shit and drinking too much or drinking too much, I don't drink really now at all. I just don't see the point in it. It doesn't add any value to my life, and certainly it's not going to make my journey with Ryan any easier. So I just don't bother with it. But it was as simple as, without the risk of simplifying it, nutrition and exercise. We all know the science behind science and the feel-good chemicals, right? So
it's just a lot easier to use that as a lever, right? Than
it is, because anyone can go for a walk. I think it was tough during lockdown because the gyms are open, and I did try to join the gym last year just for that brief moment when the UK came out of lockdown, only for it to go back into lockdown. I took up running. I got shin splints at the start of last year, and it felt like I'd been kneecapped. That knocked me for 6 as well. So now I have a plan I'm following. I'm following a workout plan. I'm following this program that I'm on now with Ryan and yourselves. But I'm very conscious about what I eat, because I know it will have an effect on me physically. If I go out and eat Domino's pizza, I'm sure it'll taste great. It probably won't actually. It tastes like shit. But I know what it'll do to me the next day. I know I'll feel crap. I'll feel lethargic. My guts will be playing the drums all day. And I'll just look I'll have grease coming out of my pores. So it's the same thing with you mentally, right? Whatever you eat will affect you mentally. It's clear as light and day that your hormones will be affected by what you eat. So now I've really embraced the science behind. I guess I wasn't really much of an Ayurvedic eater. Mum and dad swear by it. They're Indians. It's in their genes. But now I really look at what I'm eating and the medicinal effects it will have on me. And I know that's what I really respect your product range, is because it's all natural, it's all science backed. Whereas before, no, I didn't care about what I was eating. Even when I was in the gym a couple of 2-3 years ago and got in really good shape, I'd be really good for 2 or 3 days of the week. I had a Muscle for Life meal plan back then as well. I sent a copy. I dug it out from the archives and sent it on to Ryan so he could laugh at it. But just in terms of how similar it is to the one I'm on now. But I still, for the other sort of 4 days of the week, I still went out at the weekend, got loaded with my mates, came home with a filthy kebab. And then I thought, okay, I've blown Friday night. I might as well just piss Saturday and Sunday away as well. But I'll start again on Monday. And that's the life I was living. Now I'm not like that. And I don't see the point in wasting my weekend, wasting the time and the effort and care I put into myself for the sake of some frivolity and, with food and alcohol. Because I know I'm going to feel like shit on Monday. I really will. And it's not the best way to start your week. And I won't sleep properly. So there's so many reasons why I shouldn't be doing all the things I used to do. So that's the difference, Mike. I care about what I put in my body, and I care about how much I move every day. And I do that for myself, because no one else cares what I eat. It's not going to affect them. No one cares if I hit a PB in the gym tomorrow, but I will. And I know I've done something better, and I've beaten the same Jay that was walking here last week. And that's what it's about, me versus me. And I just want to do something good for myself every single day, no matter how big or small it is, and try and make people around me happy by being a happier person. Because by being good to myself, by proxy, I'll be good to others. And it's a good way to live your life.
I love it. I love it. And I agree on all fronts. The weekend point in particular, that's like, in the game of fitness, that's one of the bosses that you have to beat. Many people are still stuck on that level, so to speak. I've heard from many people over the years who they just didn't understand, who were doing that. And it was in many cases just a lack of education. They didn't understand energy balance, for example. They didn't understand that the body processes carbs and fats and proteins differently. And they didn't understand how adding alcohol accelerates fat storage, right? Yeah. And so they didn't understand why they were not losing weight when they were following a decent meal plan, maybe decently throughout the week, and then drastically overeating and over drinking on the weekends. So being able to understand that's the first step. And then for many people, just understanding it was enough to help them start overcoming the habits. And maybe it wasn't getting rid of it all right away. For some people, it was toning it down. And then once they had toned it down for a couple of weeks, it was doing it now maybe just on one day instead of 2 or 3 days. And then eventually they beat the boss like you have. And then they're like, I actually don't need to do this anymore.
No, why bother? There's no value add in it at all. It doesn't bring me any, it's going to make my life better in any way whatsoever. But me sticking to a healthy diet and a good exercise regime is going to pay dividends as I grow older. I'm going to be 45 this summer. Bits will start falling off in a few years from now, and I want to try and keep hold of as many of my parts as I can. And the way to do that, the way to mitigate.
I wouldn't have guessed. You don't look 45.
Thank you very much. I moisturize every day and drink 3 liters of water. But the mitigate against the demons of age. The way to do that is by looking after yourself now. And again, 10 years from now, I'll thank myself for it. I'm not going to thank myself 10 years from now for basically spending my mid-40s just pissing my money up the wall, going to parties, going on, fancy pants holidays, buying nice clothes. But I will thank myself for what I'm doing to my, for myself now. And this is a long thing, right? It's not like what I did in the past where I'm going to throw myself into it for 3 or 4 months, look good for the summer. And then if something shiny comes along, my attention will be pushed like I did in the past with a new job and all the traveling and so on and so forth. This is now going to be a way of life for me. I know I've done it in the past, but only for short periods of time. So I know I'm capable of it, but now it's about the commitment and really, really challenging myself to make this me. And I'm very excited by it, slightly nervous because I don't want to let the Ryan down. I mean, one of the reasons why I went for the coaching is
I was going to say that's what
it's the accountability, right? So
you might as well use it to your advantage. That's another lever that just helps.
Exactly right. I'm enjoying sort of putting my stats down into the apps. He'll read it, review it, and you'll know if I bothered or not, on that given day. And I won't be able to skip leg day. I used to do that all the time in the past. Oh God, no! Find any reason. Oh, it looks a bit cloudy out there. I'll probably stay indoors and put the kettle on. That's better than going to the gym and doing some squats. But, I did my first leg day under Ryan today. I will be sending some hate mail to him tomorrow, no doubt, when I can't get out of bed.
It'll probably be the next day. It's always the day after.
Yeah, I think
the day after leg day that's the worst. The day after, you're like, oh, I'm a little bit sore, and then it's the next day when you're hobbling out of bed. Well, even if you don't overdo it, it doesn't. You'll see as you get fitter and you keep pushing yourself appropriately. I mean, I still run into this. I still get a fair amount of soreness in my lower body, not so much in my upper body. Yeah. Maybe to the touch. Maybe if I were getting a massage, there'd be some soreness. But the lower body, it's just such a big. These are big muscles, a lot of muscles moving heavy loads. And just slight increases in volume or intensity can, in me at least, it can still trigger. It's not the level of soreness that I used to experience when I was doing wild stuff, when I didn't really know what I was doing, like doing 10 by 10s, for example, on squats, where I couldn't sit down on a toilet. I would have to get over to the toilet and just fall. That's it. And then getting off of the toilet required my arms. You know what I mean? Yeah. It's not quite that bad, but I still get fairly sore from a few exercises, the squat, the deadlift, if I just make a little bit of progress.
Yeah.
But it's normal.
Well, what would your advice be to, so I think, for me selfishly as well. So I'm not long back into the gym. I'm still trying to tune into the little niggles and squeaks and aches and groans in my body.
Yep.
So I'm really nervous about tweaking something and then putting myself out of the game for a few days or a few weeks, even the worst case scenario. But I don't want that fear to hinder me from sort of pushing myself appropriately. Yeah. So at the moment, I'm super nervous and I'm on high alert. So slightest tweak, I'm like, I better put that down, move on to the next exercise. How do you differentiate between the two? Is it between I'm a bit rusty, just a bit of a warm up, or my body's trying to tell me something?
Yeah. So my best advice for getting back into the gym, because a mistake that, and I've made this before, when I was younger, and my wife at the time, my girlfriend, so she was in Germany. We did a long distance relationship for 2.5 years. We were together for a year and a half, and then long distance for 2.5. And then she moved over here to the States. And so there were a couple of instances where I went over to Germany and we would just run around, have fun for 3 weeks. And I might do a couple body weight workouts, maybe a couple gym workouts here and there. But I was a little bit detrained when I got back, and then I would go and try to do exactly what I was doing before I left, and that was a bit much. I remember ending workouts like nauseous, and that even now it would take a lot of training for me to get to that point, right? And so like training to the point of nausea, that's too much, and then getting very, very sore. And so the simple advice is to dial your intensity, so your loads, dial that back, and the rep range that you're going to work in. That if you're currently working in, if you're doing like a bigger, leaner, stronger approach where you're doing a lot of 4 to 6 and maybe some 6 to 8, you can still work in the same rep ranges, but you want to adjust the loads so you're finishing your hard sets with on compound exercises. You should feel like you have 1 or 2 good reps still in the tank, meaning that if it's 1 good rep left, so currently, how I like to, you could call this intensity discipline. What I like to see in a squat, for example, is in my first set, I like to feel like I have 2 to 3 good reps left, meaning I could do 2 more, and then I probably would fail, maybe 3 more, and then I probably would fail. And I am fairly calibrated to that because every 4 months I do some AMRAPs and I push myself hard. I go close to failure. So I do have a good sense of how many reps I actually have left in the tank. Because if you don't ever really go close to failure, sometimes you can think you only have 1 or 2 left. But if you really went for it, you actually had 4 or 5. But regardless, my point is that maybe before you were squatting 225, let's say for 6, and that was 2 good reps left or so, like pretty hard, pretty close to failure. And you can still squat for 6, but you might have to go down to 185 or 155 to still have, let's say, those 2 good reps left, or maybe even 3, right? So what you wouldn't want to do is put the 225 on the bar and squat it for 6 and have 0 good reps left, meaning that last rep was a grinder. And if you went for another, you're going to fail, because then what's going to happen is, even if you rest a little bit longer, you rest 4 minutes, let's say, you probably aren't going to get 6 in the next. You're probably going to get 5 and maybe even fewer, depending on where you're at. It might be 4 and then, 0 good reps left. And so that's how you can hurt yourself, is training too hard. So again, pushing right up to that point of failure, using too much weight and pushing right up to that point of failure, well, that makes it even more problematic, right? If we're talking about a biceps curl, okay, not very dangerous, right? Like, sure, we can technically, I didn't hurt my back today, but I was lazy on my standing calf raises. And so I like let tension out of my core, and I was like, oh, that doesn't feel good. So like, you know, that could have been me hurting my back on a standing calf raise. It can happen. It can happen. Right. But we are most interested in what I just described in terms of intensity discipline with the big exercises, the stuff that they're not dangerous, but if you train right up to that point of failure, or you train literally to failure. So let's say, you know, you get young kids coming in the gym and they're squatting and they squat until they actually have to sit the bar down. Like they just get stuck at the bottom. The more often you do that stuff, the more likely you are to get hurt. So again, when you, as you get back into your training, I wouldn't be concerned that you are at a higher risk of injury because you are feeling a little bit detrained or a little bit detrained. That's definitely not the case. You just have to understand that you're going to have to work back to your previous training weights. And you want to make sure that you are calibrating your current training rate weights to your current fitness. And so you're going to have rep ranges to work in, reps in reserve, as it's referred to make sure you're working hard enough in those sets. And you can err on the side of maybe a little bit too little weight as opposed to a little bit too much, but you've done this. So you'll quickly understand. You might put 135 on the bench. You're supposed to do 6 or whatever. And you immediately know by rep 3, like, all right, this is a bit too easy. I'm going to get 6 and I could probably do another 6. And the only problem with that is, unfortunately, research shows that we don't have to go to failure, but we do have to get close to muscular failure to achieve an effective training stimulus. And that's particularly true as you become more experienced. When you're brand new, you can do sets of 6 with 6 reps in reserve and get some results. But, you know, that's only going to drive so much in the way of adaptation. There is a point where you're going to have to start training harder, training closer to failure. And then you're going to have to start doing more volume, more training to continue driving those adaptations. And so you can just use that as a guide. And if you are leaving, again, let's say set 1 of 3 or set 1 of 4 on a bench press, you feel like you have 2 or 3 good reps left. What you'll find is by that final set, it's probably a 1 to 2. And if it's a 0 to 1, that's okay. But I in my training, and what I generally recommend is, that's what I like to see. That I track my reps in reserve in my training log. And I like to see on the big lifts 2 to 3, maybe even like a solid 3 on that first set, because I know that by the last set, that's going to be a 1 or 2, and I'm okay pushing a little bit harder than that here and there. But that's my baseline in terms of training intensity discipline. I'm just kind of making up that term. I don't think that's really a term, but that's the concept. So hopefully that's helpful.
Absolutely.
And I'll say one other thing with your accessories. It's okay. What I like to do is, it's okay to train a little bit closer to failure, or even go to absolute failure on a lot of accessory exercises, not all sets, but take a biceps curl, right? I'm okay with, let's say set 1 of 4. That's how I'm training right now, right? I'm okay on a biceps curl if I feel like I have maybe 2 good reps left, even a 1 to 2, because that might be a 0 or a 0 to 1 on that final rep. I'm thinking about the biceps curls that I did yesterday. So my 4th set was basically right up to the point of failure. Like I had to even like move my torso a little bit to finish the rep, which is basically, I mean, once your form breaks down, that means that you can't really do it correctly anymore, right? So I'm okay with that on certain accessory exercises, because I know that there's no risk really of getting hurt because I strained hard on a biceps curl, or I strained hard on a triceps push down, right? There are certain accessory exercises though where I don't like how that feels. I don't like how that feels on an overhead dumbbell press for triceps, for example.
Yeah.
I don't like going right up to failure on that exercise because it feels funky on my shoulders. And
Yeah.
so you have to use some common sense, and you have to also kind of listen to your body, so to speak. And like you said, if it feels okay to push right up to failure and it's an accessory exercise, the risk of getting hurt is very, very low and it feels fine, then you can do that. But if it does not, even if it's an accessory exercise, then I would say don't do it.
Yeah. Okay, cool. I think that's pretty much what I've been following. I've been a bit cautious, I think, with the big three,
which is fine. I mean, you can always you're not gonna regret starting that way and then easing into
correct
maybe a more optimal training intensity.
Exactly, and I have been quite probably a bit more carefree or less risk averse with, as you say, the accessories. I remember going back to December. I think it was my first biceps workout after a good two and a half years off. I had the worst case of DOMS. I was walking around like this for 3 days. I couldn't do anything at all. I was utterly useless. But I knew they weren't. They were just mad at me, but they weren't injured.
Yeah.
So I'm a bit. I'm not too worried about that. And this is why I sort of wanted to take up the coaching, because I think there's real value to be had in someone sort of monitoring your progress and challenging you to try and to see, to read the numbers, look at the data and go, okay, look, I think you can. I've seen your form. I think you can go heavier. I've seen your numbers. You're telling me you're doing your final set with 1 to 3 reps in reserve. I think the next week, we should go up a little bit. And I need that. I need that someone sort of watching over me and giving me a bit of helpful advice. Left to my own devices, I mean, I will follow BLS to the T, but will I progress as quickly? I doubt it. I will, if I follow the advice within the book. But I'm the kind of person that sometimes does need a bit of I need the accountability, and I like it as well. I like the challenge. I like the idea, the concept of reporting back to somebody and saying, "Look at my homework. How well have I done? Can you mark it for me?" And being set new targets. And I think there's a lot to be said for that.
Totally. Yeah. And it's nice to be acknowledged by somebody who really gets it.
Yeah.
Who actually cares too. Because, aside from maybe our family and our closest friends, most people, they don't care whether we reach our fitness goals or any goals for that matter. And some people actually would rather see us fail. So generally, seeking validation isn't a good strategy. But when you have somebody like a coach or somebody who's close to you, who really has your best interests in mind, and in the case of a coach, they also understand what it takes to do what you're doing. It is nice to be validated. I think that's okay. You don't have to. I think it's better to not need it and not seek validation, but it's okay to enjoy it when it happens, I think.
Absolutely. It's nice to have a pat on the back when you've. It'd be nice to get a pat on the back when I've had a really productive week in the gym. I mean, like you say, you don't necessarily need validation. I'm not that kind of person that goes out looking for it, but I think when you're working together with someone on a joint objective, which is this is, it's nice to buddy up and bounce things off, and also on the flip side, have that critique as well. I'm really interested to see what he when he sees these videos over the weekend and see what he says about my form, because as much as I try to be very good with it, I'm pretty sure he'll find issues with it, and I value that as well. So I think this is, I'm all for having projects in your life. Most of my projects in the past have been pretty shit, like buying a new car, buying a bunch of tailor-made suits or Gucci loafers or whatever it is. I need a new laptop. Do you really? No, this is a project I'm really genuinely proud that I've kicked off, and then I'll reap the rewards for it.
I love it. I love it. Well, this has been a great talk, Jay. Thanks again. Yeah. Thanks again for doing it, and keep me posted on your progress. Sounds like you're going to do great. And, if there's anything else you wanted to say before we wrap up, you can get that out there, or we can.
Yeah, I think anyone that's listening, I'm pretty sure most of your listeners are probably fairly sort of well versed with with the fitness game and your work. But anyone that's like me who are coming back from a long layoff or dipping their toes in the water, I found Mike, having not trained at all, completely cold. Trust the science that's laid out in his writings. Listen to the podcast. Just soak it all up. I really encourage you to
just join the cult. Just
join the cult, right? I'm a believer. I really am. I'm going to get Muscle for Life and Legion tattooed on me, I think. But just believe in the science. A lot of thoughts.
That's when I know that I've achieved cult leader status. When somebody shows me like my face tattooed on their body, then I know.
I'll name my firstborn after you. You'll be a bottle of Pulse, not
my ultimate ambition fulfilled. My true ambition. What I'm really doing all of this for.
You're on the right path, I guarantee it, buddy. But yeah, so anyone's listening, do just have faith and believe in the science, and more importantly, have faith in yourself that you can achieve some pretty wonderful things, and you will surprise yourself in a very short space of time.
Love it. Love it. Well, thanks again, Jay. This was a great interview.
Thank you for having me.
Well, I hope you liked this episode. I hope you found it helpful. And if you did, subscribe to the show because it makes sure that you don't miss new episodes. And it also helps me because it increases the rankings of the show a little bit, which of course then makes it a little bit more easily found by other people who may like it just as much as you. And if you didn't like something about this episode or about the show in general, or if you have ideas or suggestions or just feedback to share, shoot me an email, mike@muscleforlife.com, muscleforlife.com, and let me know what I could do better, or just what your thoughts are about maybe what you'd like to see me do in the future. I read everything myself. I'm always looking for new ideas and constructive feedback. So thanks again for listening to this episode, and I hope to hear from you soon.